Okay, the dust has settled from Summer Game Fest. I'm back, but while I was there, I got to play a lot of games behind the scenes, and I want to talk about them. This is actually part 2, though. I couldn't fit it all in one video because I did play a lot of games. So if you want to check out the first video, it'll be linked somewhere, where I played Stalker 2, Phantom Blade Zero, Sonic and Shadow Generations, a couple of other things. But over here in this video, I got more games I'm excited to talk about, so we should just jump right into it. The first one's a bit of a smaller one, but it's one that I've been all over since it was announced. It's called Skate Story. Skate Story is published by Devolver Digital, who I very much like their games, and Skate Story is a weird, trippy skateboarding game. You guys know I love skateboarding games, so I was really excited to get my hands on this, and it is really interesting. So, like with all the games I'm going to talk about, I only get to experience a small slice. I can't put my stamp of approval onto it yet. We got to judge the final product, but what I got to see of Skate Story was like a good small half hour or so of the beginning of the game, and it's really cool. It's not at all what I expected, but I also don't really know what I was expecting. This is essentially a trippy, somewhat linear skateboarding art house experience. It does not play like a Tony Hawk. It plays more like a skate, but not even really like a skate. This is very simple, weighty. Kick pushing is very deliberate. Doing even a basic thing like a kickflip is very deliberate. It all feels like it's like about timing your ollie, popping your ollie at the right point, just to hop curbs, do small things. And that's what I really liked about it, is like, despite the fantastical setting and you're this like weird, almost trippy wireframe magical being in a weird, strange world, the simple act of successfully ollieing a curb or just doing a shove it over a small object feels so powerful and so exciting. It's got more of that like real world endorphin rush you get from skateboarding with the little things, more than you do in other games. And the fact that I already felt that from just playing a little bit of this game, I think is a big win. It's also very interesting just how it goes down. So most of what I played was actually like a really long drawn out tutorial sequence, but even within that tutorial, it was visually astounding, weird, abstract concepts, incredible sound and visual designs. Just like, it was like a vibes game, and I know I've been using that a lot lately, but this is very much like a game I want to play when I'm in a certain mood. It also does a really good job of both taking itself seriously and not taking itself very seriously, because it does feel artsy and abstract with its visuals and some of its phrasing, but it's still all about people not wanting you to skateboard in certain sections. And there's like one part where like you're finding objects for this mystical being, and the object you find and bring them is essentially an Arizona iced tea. So a lot of it is goofy stuff, but under the guise of something bigger and smarter. And it walks that line really, really well. I don't know how long and fulfilling the full experience of the entire game will be, but like with that little glimpse I got, I really liked it. From the visual style, the text, the menus, the music, the sounds, the feeling of skateboarding, the feeling of hitting an ollie. All that really worked for me. So Skate Story, I'm definitely still keeping my eye on. Now, another game I wanted to talk about, I didn't get to play at Summer Game Fest, but I did get to see a lot of it running in real time, and I essentially got to see more than double of what was shown publicly. It's Assassin's Creed Shadows. I got to see more approaches to the stuff that you guys got to see. I got to see different characters taking on different things, a little bit more exploration, different angles, way more combat, and I just ultimately came away not really impressed. I know I've become the Assassin's Creed hater at this point. Like, I'm just very hard on them because I still have a lot of love for the series. I've been playing from the original, but the newer ones haven't really worked for me, but this one feels the messiest. Now, I know it's a work in progress, and I'm not judging it completely yet, but just looking at it, seeing it go down, seeing the different approaches to levels, I couldn't help but compare it to Ghost of Tsushima. I know I shouldn't. You should judge every game on its own merit, but it's hard. The combat here, to me, felt sloppy, imprecise, couldn't really tell what it really wanted to do. Enemy artificial intelligence seemed absolutely like non-existent from a stealth standpoint, but also combat with enemies just kind of standing around. To the visuals, just the game not really looking appealing or really highlighting the beauty of what could be this setting. And then the protagonists, where Yasuke seems interesting. I don't know if I love playing as a brute, so I would probably gravitate gravitate more towards the stealthier Nawe character. But with her, she lacks that Assassin's Creed protagonist charisma. It's the voice acting, the writing, I don't know, something with her just feels so like brutally, almost painfully unremarkable. And that's a shame because when you're running around as her on rooftops and she's grappling hooking and flipping off rooftops, that's where the game feels the coolest. And that's where it feels like, oh, this is the Assassin's Creed in feudal Japan that people have been begging for years now. But I think that game dumped in the very messy framework that is these big, massive open world Assassin's Creed RPGs. It just feels like a rough fit. There's so much potential for this game, of course. There's a reason why everybody wanted an Assassin's Creed game in this setting. But from what we've seen, I just haven't really seen that realized yet. It just feels like more of the same, but even messier than last time. And I know that sounds harsh, but I stand by. I am going to get the game, I'm going to play the game and review the final game and judge it on its own merits. But my first impressions, I'm pretty skeptical. I'm pretty not into it. Another one I played that's pretty charming is Tales of the Shire. This is the game that is essentially, what if Animal Crossing, but you're hobbits? That's a pretty good pitch, honestly, because hobbits are all about just hanging out, cooking, eating, drinking, like just hanging with the boys, hanging with your homies. So this really works for me conceptually. The game itself is still very much a work in progress, and it was rough around the edges, but what I got to see was a very charming, simple game that I think might be like one for younger audiences, or like it's very simple. There's not really any fail states. You know, you're focused on cooking, fishing, doing whatever. There's no like, you can't burn the food, you can't mess up cooking. You're growing plants and crops to get recipes and ingredients for your cooking, right? But like, your crops don't go bad. You can't screw up farming. So it's very simple. It's all just about the journey and bopping around and having fun. What I got to see, the area I got to see was very focused around cooking, with a mission with you helping out a local pub owner, coming up with a new recipe to compete with another pub. And so you keep going back to your house and you keep cooking up new things to try and figure out the right perfect thing. So I got to see a lot of chopping mini games and putting different ingredients in, and you can put different ingredients to make a dish spicy or sweet. And then a lot of it is all centered around cooking for people, gathering people, setting them at a table, and then putting food in front of them and having a nice time. It sounds silly, but it's very charming, very simple and low key. And the world itself, it's actually by water. It's not Hobbiton, so it's got its own like little flavor to it. And visually, it is incredibly detailed and really gorgeous. Graphically, again, things are still a little rough, but like the art design, the color palette, the detail, the way nature works within like, you know, everybody's little buildings and their establishments and their hobbit houses. It just really, really works. And with it, there's a lot of customization. So you have your own home, you're customizing the inside and the outside. On the outside, you know, you're rearranging patio furniture, cobblestones. You're also, of course, planting and growing crops. Then on the inside, you're customizing things as well as your character, you know, their look, their gender, their clothing, all that type of stuff. And you just go out and do quests. And in this town, you actually have a map you can bring up and you can see what NPCs are doing. The NPCs are going around the town, going about their day, doing things, and apparently at the end of the day, they all end up at the Green Dragon, which I really love. And like, you know, you see NPCs doing stuff, the sun sets, they start going and doing different things. I just really enjoyed that. Also, there's a sprint button, but you're not really sprinting, you skip. When you hold the button, your character starts just like happily skipping down the path. It's goofy, it's light, it's charming, and I don't know how occupied the game will keep me personally because I got to experience some questing, talking to NPCs, which had some nice writing, you know, some references to Tolkien stuff, and then fishing and cooking. But I'm curious to see what else is it going to have to really grip me personally. Either way, I just think it's an interesting, different game, even if it's not for everybody. I hope the final release is cool, and I hope maybe for some people who like that cozy type of game, this could hit for them. Now, switching gears completely, I got to play Star Wars Outlaws. I got to play a bunch of this, and this is an interesting game going in because I was pretty skeptical. It's Ubisoft, so I kind of never know what to expect. And Star Wars can go either way, really, as well. But I am also an easy mark for Star Wars. I absolutely love Star Wars. I don't talk about it on YouTube or online or anything like that. It's just kind of like my thing. But this one could have really gone either way with Ubisoft. I think lately Star Wars games have been on a pretty good run. It's felt pretty good. I think like we're getting into a new age of good Star Wars games again. But with Outlaws, I wasn't sure. The trailers weren't quite hitting it for me. I wasn't really sure what the deal was. But after playing it for quite some time, about an hour, pretty into it. It's actually more like a Star Wars 1313 than I was expecting. It is a straightforward video game, like an Uncharted. You're running, you're jumping, you're climbing, you're exploring, you're getting into shootouts. But in a good Star Wars flair with a little bit more of an open world setting to it. And there's a lot outside of the game that is worth questioning in terms of like all that pre-order bullshit that they were doing with that riled up players. On the Friends Per Second podcast, we got to talk to some of the developers behind the game and ask them what the deal was with that. You know, they don't make those decisions. They didn't really give us the best answer, but we tried. So there's all that stuff. But that aside, I think this is kind of realizing the Star Wars open world thing fairly well. I got to walk through a couple of towns, most notably Kijimi, the planet, probably the coolest thing from Rise of Skywalker, the snowy planet where Poe Dameron's ex-girlfriend was. Got to see this town fully realized. Walking around, I see interiors, I see vendors like, you know, cooking street food and stuff. I see different alien races having conversations with each other as I walk by. An R4 unit like goes across my path and I'm like, oh shit, this is like a Star Wars open world feel. We haven't really had that. I mean, we had it a little bit in the last Jedi game where, you know, you had that hub area that was kind of a town, but this feels different. I mean, this has like a wanted level and stuff like that. You can piss stormtroopers off and get them to come after you. You could hop on your speeder bike and go wherever you want. That stuff really seems like it really works. And from a gameplay perspective, yes, it's a lot of running and jumping and climbing, but it's also a lot of stealth and third-person shooting. I like how much stealth there is. I crept around quite a bit, as much as I could. I would essentially enter an encounter and try and stealth around as much as I could until the shootout and like inevitably happened. The shootouts are pretty simple. You have your blaster. You can shoot regular blaster bolts or switch to like these different like laser bolts that will be more effective against robotic enemies, but also hurt shields or bring down shields quicker. Then you also have on a cooldown stun. So your blaster can boom stun where it shoots the circle and instantly will stun an enemy. So it's like essentially you're waiting for a cooldown to occasionally have an instant kill button. And when you boom, zap stun a stormtrooper, it's funny to just see them totally collapse over. So I got into some really good shootouts, like in a Star Destroyer hangar, like, you know, behind a crate and trying to get that crate into a ship, into a shuttle so I can get away. Like that stuff really worked for me. I got to also engage in a ship battle in space. I got to fly around, shoot down some TIE fighters. That worked okay. It's pretty simple. Kind of felt like Starfield in a lot of ways, like how that ship combat is. But then after the encounter, I was able to fly around space a little more. There were things I could engage with. I saw a ship that I can engage with and possibly mess with. But I also could continue the mission and fly to a planet. And when I flew to that planet, it would stay like in camera, but it would kind of transition into a cutscene where the ship would speed up, go through the atmosphere, come down through the clouds, and land pretty seamlessly. Obviously, there was a cutscene there, but it helped kind of keep my immersion, and I like that. We don't get that in every game now. Also, the main character, Kay, from the trailers, I wasn't sure what to make of her, didn't get to see a lot of her. She just looks so much just like a regular, like normal person that like, I wasn't sure how that was gonna go down, but like when I'm playing and when I'm hearing her talking and going along with things, she's got some spunk to her that I actually think really works. And with her being kind of like this like trickstery Han Solo type, I actually really liked the hacking mini games and the door unlocking mini games. I actually found them fairly satisfying to pull off. So what I got to see was very small chunks of this, a little bit of open world, a little bit of ship combat, a little bit of exploration and platforming, a little bit of real big all out action. So when it all comes together in that final package, that's what's really going to make or break it, right? That I haven't seen yet, so that I can't judge. But at the very least, like early glances at it and playing it for a while, as a Star Wars person, I was into it. And also as a fan of Massive, Ubisoft Massive, the people behind the Division games, taking this on, I just like the way they build and design open worlds, and I'm getting that here. So I'm happy, I'm interested, and like I've been saying with all these, I'll judge it completely when it's fully out. But at least I could give you the heads up on some of these games, you know? So let me know what you think in the comments. Are you gonna play Animal Crossing but with hobbits? Are you interested in Star Wars Outlaws or Assassin's Creed Shadows? Are you burnt down on Ubisoft? And what do you think of Skate Story? There's a lot of stuff we could talk about, so let me know in the comments, but hopefully you caught this video and my previous video where I talked about Stalker 2 and Phantom Blade Zero and stuff like that as well. I'd love to just hear your thoughts about everything I've played, what you're looking forward to the most, and what games you want me to make videos on. But thank you if you've been sitting around listening to me for this long. I mean, I'm just talking about stuff I love, stuff I find interesting, so clicking the like button does help me. Thank you, like if you like this shit. But either way, I'm Jake Baldino. Thanks for watching. Subscribe because video games, pizza's on me.